Section B, Part 1, the map work. Now, the map work has 10 marks, and we are going to study this map. The question says that study the map of hairy area and answer the questions that follow. Now, we are going to study this map. You can see it here. So, one of the things you should know is that it is very important to study that map very carefully. Study it very carefully so that by the time you go to the questions, you already know what the map contains. And you can see how it looks. I see a church, a museum, we have a river, we have tea farm, we have a road across that map, we have a school, you see, we have trees, great vegetation there, and we have our scale, we have our key. So, question 21A. It asks, River Harry flows from which direction? Now, direction of River Harry. Here, we should say that River Harry flows from the northwest towards the southeast, where it enters the lake. Do you see the lake there? So, the river is flowing up to where it will enter the lake. And to help you remember that, you should always remember this. To help you remember about rivers, is that a river flows from their source and towards their mouth. So a river will flow from the source to the mouth. So in this case, the river is flowing from the source and on to the mouth where it is the lake. Then question 21B. Identify 2 human activities carried out in the area. Now you can say any 2, but I see very many. Here I see tea farming. Do you see tea farming? We have fishing because we have a river. And you can also say cattle keeping. Cattle keeping. We can also talk about education because I see a school. You see a school. We also have transport. I see a road, a very big road across the map. You can also talk about tourism or museum activities because we have a museum there. So there are very many things you can talk about that involve human activities, and any of the 2 will be correct. Now question 21C. Calculate the straight line distance between the school and the church in kilometers if the scale is 1:50,000. So here you are supposed to calculate the distance between the church and the school, and you can take something like a string and then measure the distance. So I cannot measure here, but once it is printed, it is easy to measure. And I'm just going to show you how you should go about it. 1, you should change the 50,000 centimeters into kilometers. Divide by 100,000. We divide by 100,000. And when you divide 50,000 by 100,000, that is 0.5 kilometers. So the approximate map distance, let's assume it is 10 centimeters. If you measure and find 10 centimeters, for example, you are going to take that 10 and then multiply by 5, 0.5. You will take the distance that you found. So if I take my string and measure from the school to the church and find it is 10 centimeters, I'm going to multiply by my 0.5 and then I'll find 5. So the approximate distance is going to be 5 kilometers. And the answer may vary slightly according to the printed size and the measurement. So one rule of thumb is to always make sure that you measure with the string and then find the correct measurement, then multiply with the converted. You start by converting the centimeters in the ratio into kilometers. And then let us go to question 21D. Name one physical feature found in the southeastern part of the map. Now, the physical feature in the southeastern part of the map is the lake. You see, because the River Harry also enters the lake in this part of the map. That is the southeastern part of the lake. Then part of the map, it has the lake. Then question 21E. State 2 factors that may have influenced the location of the settlement shown in the map above. Factors influencing settlement or in a location include, number 1, availability of transport, especially the tarmac road. Then we have availability of water from River Harry and the lake. Then other factors may include fertile land, employment from tea farming, maybe flat land, you see, fishing opportunities along the lake. So all this, you can just look and see, why would people live here? They will live here if there is a school, if there is transport means, all this, if there is land for them to farm. All these factors are going to influence settlement. Then question 21F, it says calculate the area of the tea farm in kilometers if the scale is 1:50,000. Now, just like we have done before, at a scale of 1:50,000, you are going to convert the centimeters into kilometers by dividing by 100,000. Then we are going to find 0.5 kilometers because our answer should be in kilometer. Then take the actual dimensions, you see, the actual dimension, and then multiply by that 0.5. And then the answer you find, that is the correct option. So you are just, you must start by converting your centimeters to kilometers, then measure those centimeters and then multiply by what you found. And that is the correct answer. Now we are done with part 1 of this section B because the part 1 was map work. With that we are done with map work. A very interesting part. Now let us go to part 2 of section B. And part 2 is mostly about geography. It is actually about geography. We will start with question 22 and it says, question 22 says, the residents of Baringo County have experienced deforestation leading to soil erosion and drying of rivers, divine environmental degradation. Now, and I'm going to give you the definition. Environmental degradation is the deterioration or the destruction of the natural environment through harmful human activities or natural processes. That is what we call environmental degradation. Then question B, state 3 causes of environmental degradation in the county. Now here we have deforestation. The question says that there is deforestation. Then number 2, there is overgrazing. Then number 3, there is poor farming practices. You see, all these are possible causes of degradation. And then other acceptable answers may include charcoal burning, settlement expansion, forest fires, mining, and improper waste disposal. So all those are acceptable answers. And then question C says that explain the effects of environmental degradation on the community. So again here you are supposed to think, when there is environmental degradation, how will it affect this community? And I'm going to give you some options. For example, when there is environmental degradation, there will be soil erosion, which will reduce soil fertility, resulting in low agricultural production. And then rivers and water sources will dry up, causing water shortages. And then habitats are destroyed, leading to loss of plants and animals. Then also there could be desertification, food shortages, and increased temperature, and also increased poverty, because all these things are going to increase poverty levels. Then question D, give 3 measures the residents can take to conserve the environment. Conservation of the environment measures. So number 1, the most important, they should plant trees through afforestation and reforestation, you see. And then they should practice controlled grazing and avoid overstocking of animals. Then they can also use soil conservation methods like terracing, contour farming, planting cover crops, all those, you see. But you need to understand that trees, terraces, and controlled grazing are very important when it comes to environmental conservation. And with that, we are done with question 22. We go to question 23. So question 23 says, a geography club is studying World Heritage Sites in Africa. Now this question says, question A, that identify the following World Heritage Site. You see, we have 2 pictures. We have A and we have B. So first of all, that B That beach there is called the Valley de Mai Nature Reserve in Seychelles. It is very common. It is in Seychelles. You see it there. So that word, I don't know how it is read, but it is, you can see it right here on the screen, that it is the nature reserve in Seychelles. And then the other one is a rock-hewn church of Libela. It is in Ethiopia. You see, that is A. So those are the correct options. And then number B. Question B says, apart from the above named heritage, name other 2 World Heritage Sites in Africa. So we have very, very many of them, like the pyramids of Giza in Egypt. We have the Great Zimbabwe, you see, the Serengeti National Park. The Serengeti National Park, that one you should not forget. We have the Mount Kenya National Park. We have the Lamu Old Town. Which one else do we have in Kenya? We have Fort Jesus. We have Robben Island. You see, we have the Ngorongoro Conservation Area. So there are very many, and you can even identify those you know which are in Kenya, like the Serengeti, the Mount Kenya National Park, and all those. And then C. C says, explain 2 reasons why these sites are important. Why are these sites important? The World Heritage Sites in Africa. 1, they are important because they help us to preserve our history, our culture, and our natural heritage as communities. Another thing, they attract tourists, you see, which in turn creates employment, helping people to earn foreign and also contribute to foreign exchange, because when tourists are coming in to view these sites, then there is exchange of currencies. And you can also say things like education. It will help in education for people to learn. So when you're educated about Fort Jesus, you don't just learn it in books, but you go and see it. It also helps in research and protection of endangered species. With that, let us go to question D, and it says, suggest 2 ways of conserving these sites. Now, to conserve these sites, we have law enforcement. You can say enforce laws against vandalism, poaching, and illegal settlement. Again, maintain the sites and control the number and behavior of visitors. Another thing, community education. Just educate people about the importance of these sites, and they are not going to destroy them. Then there should be adequate funding and employment of trained guards who are going to keep guards of these sites. So any answer that you come up with and it is reasonable, that is going to help in the conservation of these sites, should be correct. You can talk about funding, you can talk about controlling the number and the behavior of people getting there. You can talk about enforcing laws that are going to prevent illegal vandalism, poaching, and all that, things that destroy those sites. Then let us go to E, the last question in question 23. It says, state 1 challenge faced in conserving these sites. Now, when we are trying to conserve these sites, there are very many challenges that may be experienced, and one of the main ones is inadequate funding. When enough funding is not, when enough resources are not injected in the conservation of these sites, then that is a challenge, because money is required to conserve them. You can also talk about vandalism. You can talk about poaching. You can talk about climate changes which are affecting these sites. You can talk about pollution. You see, air pollution, water pollution, they also affect these sites. You can talk about excessive tourism and encroachment. You see, all these answers should be correct as long as they are challenges of conservation. Then question 24. The Aswan High Dam and River Tana projects are examples of multipurpose river projects. Then A, name the countries where each project is found. Now, the Aswan High Dam, where do we find it? This is very easy. The Aswan High Dam is found in Egypt, and the Seven River Forks Scheme is found in Kenya. The Seven Forks Scheme, that one you should never forget, it is found in Kenya. Aswan High Dam in Egypt. Then B, give 2 reasons why the Aswan High Dam project was established. Now, why was it established? It was established, number one, to control flooding along the Nile River. It was also established to generate hydroelectric power and also to help in irrigation, in water storage, and also to improve navigation. So all these options, any two should be correct. Then C, explain two economic benefits of such projects. Such projects help in many things. For example, they provide electricity for industries, business, and homes. They supply irrigation water, increasing agricultural production, and they also help in fishing, in tourism, in employment, in food, in flood control, you see. So there are very many benefits of such projects. And then we go to D. D says, state two challenges facing these projects and possible solutions. Now, we are going to state about, in this question, make sure that you state the challenge and also the solution. So one challenge is siltation, which reduces reservoir capacity. And how do we deal with this? We can deal with it by planting trees, conserving the catchment and dredge accumulated silt. Another challenge is low water levels during droughts. And how do we deal with this? We deal with it by managing water carefully and conserving upstream water sources. You see, you can also talk about, those are the two main challenges, and you can also talk about displacement of residents, and we can deal with it by compensating and resettling the affected people. We can also talk about high construction and maintenance costs, but we can deal with it by providing adequate funding and also ensuring regular maintenance by the government or the community. We are done with question 24. We go to question number 25. During a science week, learners observed instruments in a weather station. Then A, differentiate between weather and climate. Weather, what is weather? Weather is atmospheric conditions of a place over a short period of time. But what is climate? Climate is the average weather conditions of a place recorded over a long period of time, usually about 30 years. So weather changes quickly. When we talk about weather, there is quick changes, but climate continues for very many years. Then question B, identify 4 characteristics of Stevenson's screen. Characteristics. This is very easy. For example, it is painted white to reflect heat. Another thing, it has a double roof. Why? To reduce direct heating. Another thing, it is raised approximately 1.2 meters above the ground. And other things is that it is made of wood and having a lockable door. So any of the features should be correct. Now, and then question number C. State 3 instruments kept in the Stevenson's screens. So, which are the instruments that are kept in the Stevenson's screen? We have a maximum thermometer. We have a minimum thermometer. We have a wet and a dry bulb thermometer. And we have a thermogram, you see. So, you can say any of those. 3 of them should be correct. And then D. Explain 2 effects of climate change on human activities. So 2 effects of climate change, we have many. For example, prolonged drought, which will reduce crop production, livestock health and water availability. We have heavy rainfall and floods, which will destroy homes, roads, farms and other infrastructure. And also other effects may include heat-related illnesses, changing tourism patterns and increased pests, because changing climate like that will also increase pests. Then let us go to question number 26. We are done with question number 25. During a field trip to Mount Kenya, learners observed different vegetation zones. Then A, state 4 factors influencing vegetation distribution. So factors influencing vegetation distribution climates. And they may include factors influencing vegetation distribution. We have soil, we have climate, we have relief or altitude, we have human activities, drainage, animals, and maybe even natural disasters. So you can say any of those 4. Then describe that is B. Describe the characteristics of tropical vegetation regions in Africa. Characteristics of tropical vegetations. 1. They occur in areas with generally high temperatures throughout the year. And again, high rainfall areas contain dense evergreen broad-leaved forests. Another thing, areas with seasonal rainfall contain tall grasses and scattered trees. And you may also say that plants show adaptations such as deep roots, you see thick barks, thorns, and they may also have drip tip leaves. So you can talk about those adaptations. Then we go to C. Explain 2 methods of conserving vegetation in the community. Again, this one you just think, and as long as the answer you gave shows a way of conserving the vegetation, you should be correct. For example, you can talk about planting trees through afforestation and reforestation. You can talk about controlling of logging and establish protected forest reserves. So control logging will help to prevent people from cutting down trees. And other methods, you can talk about preventing fires and educating communities about the importance of vegetation conservation. Then we go to question number 27. 27A. So 27 has A, B, C, and D. Part A, differentiate between folding and faulting. What is the difference between folding, faulting? Now, the difference is this. Folding is bending of rock layers due to compressional forces without the rocks breaking. But faulting is the cracking and displacement of rocks caused by forces in the earth's crack. You see? So one of the things you can use to remember is saying folding bends and faulting breaks. See? So when you say that folding bends and faulting breaks, it should help you to remember the difference between the two. And then question 27B. Name 2 resultant features due to faulting. Now, when due to faulting, one of the features you observe is the Rift Valley. That is a feature that is formed through faulting. Another feature formed through faulting is the block mountain. You see block mountains. You can also talk about fault scrubs and escarpments. They also occur as a result of faulting. Then 27C. Give 2 evidence supporting the continental drift history. Now 2 pieces of evidence for continental drift. Now I will talk about the coastlines. The coastlines of continents such as Africa and South America fit together like a jigsaw puzzle. That is one of the things you can talk about. You can also talk about similar fossils and rock formation which occur on continents now, especially by oceans, you see. Then other evidence include matching mountain ranges and ancient glacial deposits. So there are very many options there, and as long as it is talking about evidence of a drift, you should be correct. Then we go to D, 27D. With the aid of a well-labeled diagram, describe the theory of plate tectonics. Plate tectonics. Now, the Earth's lithosphere is broken into large plates. These plates move slowly over the semi-molten atmosphere because of convection currents in the mantle. So you should see plates in your diagram. There should be plates moving apart, and we should see the lithosphere. We should see magma stroke the rises, and with that your diagram should be correct. I'll give you a sample diagram, and here you can see it.